Amidst the roar of battle, a kingdom fell. An arrow, a blow, and a king's last breath. Wave after wave, the Norman tide smashed against the Saxon shield wall, a brutal, relentless struggle for supremacy. Weeks before, Harold's army marched north, then south, battling a double invasion, a truly epic, exhausting journey. From triumphant victory to desperate defense, Harold's gamble for England's throne hung by a thread. History often tells us tales of epic grandeur, the last great charge, a glorious end to an era. But the truth of Hastings, like so many battles, is often obscured by exaggerated army sizes and myth. Popular narratives paint a picture, but what if the true story of this bloody dawn is far different? We peel back layers of legend to reveal the brutal, tactical reality of England's most pivotal battle. This pivotal clash shaped a nation, but its true story is often obscured by centuries of myth. We unveil the genuine scale of forces, the real strategies, and the desperate gamble that unfolded. Beyond the romanticized narratives lay the desperation of men fighting for their very lives and futures. A desperate gamble was struck, with the entire future of the English throne hanging precariously. The consequences of this single battle would echo through centuries, changing a continent's trajectory. William of Normandy's ambition ignited a conflict that irrevocably reshaped England's destiny forever. Harold Godwinson, exhausted and outnumbered, made his valiant stand against overwhelming, relentless odds. This was the world-changing clash of civilizations, a bloody dawn on Senlac Hill. How did a battle so fundamental to history become so profoundly misunderstood and romanticized over time? We challenge ingrained narratives, unearthing the strategic brilliance and fatal errors that defined 1066. This is the true story of 1066, stripped of romanticism and presented with stark, brutal reality. Its influence extended beyond English shores, fundamentally altering the course of European history permanently. Join us as we journey into the heart of this legendary conflict, revealing its true epic nature. Subscribe now for more cinematic history, where every detail matters and historical myths are shattered. The 11th century, a crucible of power and ambition. England stood on the brink of an unprecedented crisis. Beneath a veneer of order, deep currents of political instability and rivalries churned across the land. At its heart lay the throne of England, held by the pious, yet increasingly frail, King Edward the Confessor. Edward's long reign brought a fragile peace, but his spiritual devotion overshadowed his grasp on secular power. A king more concerned with salvation than succession, he unknowingly sowed the seeds of future conflict. Crucially, Edward had no direct heir. His impending death would plunge England into a perilous power vacuum. As the king aged, whispers of who would inherit his crown grew louder, casting a long shadow. On January 5th, 1066, Edward the Confessor breathed his last. The political storm he feared was now unleashed. With the king's passing, England faced an immediate, profound crisis. The kingdom lacked a clear, undisputed successor. Into this void stepped Harold Godwinson, Earl of Wessex, England's most powerful magnate and a formidable figure. He commanded vast lands, loyalty, and military prowess, effectively running the kingdom in Edward's final years. Harold's claim was strong, rooted in tradition and the endorsement of England's leading noble council, the Witenagemot. Within hours of Edward's burial, Harold Godwinson was crowned King Harold II, consolidating Anglo-Saxon power. But a formidable rival watched from across the Channel: William, Duke of Normandy, a man of iron will. William claimed Edward had promised him the throne years ago, solidifying his dynastic, yet contested, right. His ambition was boundless. He meticulously prepared for years, driven by a fierce desire to claim his perceived destiny. William galvanized his court, his nobles, and even the Pope, to support his audacious, unprecedented invasion plan. Adding fuel to the fire was an alleged oath Harold swore to William, acknowledging his claim to the English throne. News of Harold's coronation reached William, igniting his fury. He declared Harold a perjurer and usurper. Yet another claimant emerged from the frigid north: Harald Hardrada, the imposing king of Norway, a legendary Viking. Hardrada's claim was rooted in a prior agreement between his predecessor and a Danish king of England. He was a seasoned warrior, a last great Viking with a fearsome reputation forged in countless brutal battles. Hardrada found an unlikely ally in Tostig Godwinson, Harold's vengeful, exiled brother, eager for revenge. Three powerful men, three compelling, yet conflicting claims. England was a prize none would relinquish easily. A fragile peace cloaked the brewing storm. The air was thick with tension, ambition, and the scent of war. Oaths were made and broken, ambitions clashed, and betrayals became the currency of a desperate struggle for power. Diplomacy had failed. The intricate web of loyalties and lies had tightened, leaving no room for peaceful resolution. The stage was meticulously set for an inevitable, cataclysmic confrontation. England's fate hung precariously. This intricate tapestry of claims and conflicts would culminate in one of history's most consequential invasions. The year 1066 dawned, and a kingdom braced itself for the storm that would forever reshape its destiny. England, 1066. A kingdom on the precipice, besieged by ambition from every direction. King Harold's challenge began. From the north, the legendary Viking king, Harald Hardrada, a storm gathering with Harold's own treacherous brother, Tostig. Hardrada, the last great Viking, a brutal veteran of countless battles, sought to reclaim ancient Norse glory. Harold's exiled brother, Tostig, harbored a burning vengeance, fueling Hardrada's invasion with his own fury. The Viking armada, a terrifying spectacle, descended upon the unprotected northern coast, an overwhelming, relentless force. Pillaging and terror spread like wildfire across Northumbria. Hardrada's seasoned warriors were utterly ruthless. Local defenses crumbled swiftly. The unprepared English levies were no match for Hardrada's professional army. The ancient city of York, a strategic heart of the north, now faced imminent siege and a grim, inescapable fate. News reached Harold, a full-scale invasion in the north. His brother Tostig and the formidable Hardrada were ravaging his lands. He faced an impossible choice: defend the south against William, or confront the immediate threat in the north. Harold chose the north. His army, though stretched, began a legendary, grueling forced march across the kingdom. At incredible speed, Harold's housecarls and the Fyrd pushed north, covering vast distances in days. Harold led from the front, a beacon of determination, driving his men onward. Their loyalty was unwavering. Hardrada and Tostig, complacent after their easy victories, consolidated their gains, celebrating too soon. Before Harold's arrival, the northern earls met Hardrada at Fulford Gate, suffering a devastating and costly defeat. York had fallen. Hardrada accepted its surrender, demanding hostages and provisions, consolidating his grip. Harold's sudden appearance near York stunned the Norsemen. Their complacency was about to become their undoing. The Vikings were encamped at Stamford Bridge, awaiting supplies and hostages, blissfully unaware of Harold's presence. The English launched a brutal surprise attack. Many Vikings, expecting no battle, were without armor. The initial clash at Stamford Bridge was ferocious. English forces poured across, engaging the stunned invaders. A lone Viking warrior held the bridge for hours, a legend born in blood, slaying dozens before falling. Harold's tactical genius prevailed. His men outmaneuvered the Viking champion, finally securing passage across the bridge. The main battle raged. Hardrada's army, though resilient, fought desperately against Harold's determined, vengeful host. Harald Hardrada, the Viking king, fell, struck down by an arrow, sealing the fate of his mighty invasion. Tostig, fighting valiantly to the bitter end, perished on the battlefield, brother against king. A tragic conclusion, a decisive, brutal English victory. The Viking threat was utterly crushed, but at an immense and unforeseen cost. The English army, though triumphant, was utterly exhausted. Their strength and numbers were severely depleted. Then, the devastating news arrived. William the Conqueror had landed his mighty invasion force in the south. No time to rest, no time to recover. Harold's depleted, weary army began another grueling forced march south. From glorious victory to desperate defense, King Harold faced William's fresh army. The ultimate confrontation awaited. The final movements are set. Two armies, each forged in different fires, converge on destiny's chosen ground. From hurried victory to relentless invasion, the paths of kings intersect, sealing the fate of England. This precise location, a quiet hill in Sussex, would soon bear witness to a clash of civilizations. The stage is set, the actors assembled, a collision course, meticulously calculated by one, desperately met by the other. Harold's English host, barely recovered from Stamford Bridge, endured a grueling forced march southward. Weariness was their companion, but an unyielding resolve to protect their homeland fueled every painful step. Speed was paramount. Harold knew every hour brought William closer to London, demanding an immediate confrontation. This was not a fresh army marching to battle, but a veteran force, stretched to its absolute physical limits. Yet, loyalty to King Harold and fierce love for England bound them together, a testament to their hardened spirit. Their king, Harold Godwinson, led from the front, mirroring their exhaustion but radiating an unwavering resolve. Strategic genius or desperate gamble, Harold faced an agonizing choice: where to meet William's challenge. He chose Senlac Hill, a commanding position near Hastings, leveraging terrain to counter Norman cavalry superiority. The high ground offered a formidable defensive advantage, forcing William's cavalry to attack uphill, losing momentum. It was a calculated risk, a desperate stand designed to neutralize William's key strengths and exploit English resolve. Harold's army was overwhelmingly infantry, a sea of foot soldiers, unyielding in their commitment to the shield wall. The backbone was the Fyrd, part-time soldiers, farmers and craftsmen, summoned to defend their realm. At its heart stood the housecarls, Harold's elite professional warriors, armed with devastating Dane axes and unwavering loyalty. While equipped with some mounted troops, the English fought predominantly on foot, favoring their formidable defensive formations. The legendary shield wall began to form, a living, breathing rampart against the impending Norman assault. Each man stood shoulder to shoulder, their shields interlocking, creating an almost impenetrable defensive barrier. It was more than just tactics. It was a bond of brotherhood, a collective will to resist to the last man. This human fortress, perfected over generations, was Harold's primary weapon, his best hope against invasion. Estimated at around 7,000 men, the English force was smaller but resolute, ready to defend their homeland. Their leader, King Harold Godwinson, stood with them, sharing their hardships, commanding absolute loyalty and respect. A king tested by battle and betrayal, Harold's presence bolstered the weary spirits of his devoted Englishmen. Though outnumbered and exhausted, the English chose their ground, prepared to make their final heroic stand. Meanwhile, William's Norman host marched with calculated precision, confident, well-fed, and eager for conquest. Unlike the English, William's army was fresh, having rested and plundered after their successful Channel crossing. The invasion itself had been a triumph of logistics, a massive cross-channel operation executed with impressive efficiency. From Pevensey, they advanced inland, their purpose clear: find Harold, defeat him, and claim the English crown. William's advance was ruthless and efficient, designed to draw Harold out, forcing a decisive confrontation. Driven by ambition and a claim to the throne, William was a commander who demanded victory at any cost. William's objective was simple: force a battle, crush Harold, and seize England before English resistance could fully organize. His scouts had reported Harold's position, allowing William to march directly to the chosen battlefield. He recognized the defensive strength of Senlac Hill, but trusted his combined arms approach to break the shield wall. William's army was a mosaic of medieval Europe: Normans, Bretons, Flemish, and mercenaries drawn by promise of plunder. This diverse host brought varied skills, united under William's banner, ready to carve out a new future. Unlike the homogeneous English, William commanded a combined arms force designed for both offense and defense, They were professional, well-equipped, and eager to prove their prowess against the renowned English shield wall. The formidable Norman cavalry formed the elite shock troops, trained to break enemy formations with devastating charges. Alongside them, skilled archers and crossbowmen would rain death from a distance, softening the enemy before the charge. Estimated between 5,000 and 7,000 men, William's force was equally matched in numbers, but superior in cavalry. At its head stood William the Conqueror, a visionary leader whose strategic mind would be crucial on this fateful day. 2 worlds, 2 kings, 2 armies. On the eve of battle, destiny hung in the balance, awaiting the dawn. As dawn broke over Senlac Hill, 2 mighty armies stood poised. A brutal morning awaited. Below, the English shield wall, a fortress of flesh and timber, awaited the coming storm, unyielding defiance. Duke William's forces, a formidable blend of cavalry, archers, and infantry, prepared their initial onslaught. The Saxon defense, though outnumbered, possessed a grim determination, an unbreakable will to defend. The first phase of the Norman assault began not with steel, but with a rain of death from above. Volley after relentless volley, thousands of arrows arced through the morning air, seeking their mark. The English braced, their shields forming an almost impenetrable roof, deflecting countless shafts. Arrows rained down like hail, embedding themselves in the tough oak and ash of the Saxon defenses. Though casualties mounted, the shield wall stood defiant. Its iron discipline remained unbroken. The Norman archers, frustrated, could not shatter the resolute Saxon formation. Their volleys persisted. Against the unyielding barrier, the initial arrow storm proved insufficient to dislodge the defenders. They knew the arrows were only a prelude. The true test of their resolve was yet to come. Then came the thunder. Duke William unleashed his fearsome cavalry, the true shock troops of his army. With a furious roar, mounted warriors charged uphill, their heavy destriers shaking the very earth. The ground trembled as the charging cavalry crashed against the unyielding Saxon defense, a brutal collision. Spears met lances, axes met shields. The noise was deafening, a symphony of medieval warfare. The English line, a human bulwark, absorbed the incredible impact, refusing to yield a single inch. Every man became a pillar, holding the line with desperate strength, resisting the Norman onslaught. Wave after wave, the Norman cavalry hammered the English position, but the shield wall remained unbroken. The furious charges, though costly, yielded little progress. Frustration began to mount for the Normans. Following the cavalry, Norman infantry surged forward, initiating desperate, brutal close-quarters combat. Swords met axes in a deafening crescendo of steel. The battle devolved into a savage, desperate struggle. The terrifying Dane axes of the Huscarls scythed through the Norman ranks, inflicting terrible casualties. Each English warrior fought with a fierce, desperate courage, defending their king and their homeland. Despite their numerical superiority, the Normans found themselves bleeding, their progress stalled. William, witnessing the unyielding stand, felt a growing sense of frustration. His tactics were failing. The first major assaults were repelled, the Norman forces falling back, leaving a trail of fallen comrades. Yet, the shield wall remained. Its defenders, though battered, held their ground with stoic resilience. The battle entered a brutal grinding phase. A tactical deadlock had settled over Senlac Hill. Again and again, William's commanders drove their men forward against the formidable Saxon defense. The cycle repeated. Archers, then cavalry, then infantry, battering against the unbreakable wall. Hours of savage combat wore heavily on both sides, but the English resolve remained unwavering. Each blow, each parry, a testament to the sheer brutality of this early medieval engagement. The ground became soaked with blood, a testament to the thousands locked in this desperate struggle. The Normans pushed, desperate to find a weakness, a crack in the unyielding English formation. But the English held firm, their collective will proving stronger than the individual assaults. William watched his army suffer, his formidable forces unable to gain ground against the stubborn foe. The Saxon defense, though weary, drew strength from their shared purpose to protect their king. The shield wall, like a living fortress, absorbed every shock, every charge, every arrow. It would not break. Their resilience was legendary. Against the onslaught, the English stood as an impenetrable, unified force. Norman frustration mounted with each failed assault. The shield wall seemed to mock their every effort. King Harold watched his men, their courage unwavering, their resolve a beacon of hope. The morning passed, marked by brutal, relentless assaults. But the shield wall stood, a true deadlock. This was the shield wall's unyielding stand, a testament to English valor in the face of immense adversity. For hours, the English shield wall stood impenetrable, a bulwark against the Norman onslaught. But a shift was coming. Wave after wave of Norman infantry and archers crashed against the English line, yet it held firm. A deadlock, Duke William understood. A direct frontal assault would never shatter this formidable English defense. A new strategy was needed. The English Huscarls, seasoned warriors, formed an unbreakable barrier. Their discipline was the shield wall's true strength. Then, amidst the chaos, a strange sight. A small Norman cavalry unit, seemingly broken, began to retreat. Seeing the enemy turn tail, a primal instinct surged through the English ranks, the desire to pursue. Some Norman forces, genuinely exhausted or disordered, did indeed fall back, tempting fate. Portions of the English fyrd, unable to resist, broke ranks. They plunged down the slope, eager for glory. This immediate, uncoordinated pursuit was a grave error, a fatal deviation from their ordered strength. The retreat turned deadly. Norman cavalry, once fleeing, now surrounded and cut down the exposed English. William witnessed this vulnerability. The English, though formidable, could be lured out. A potent new tactic was born. Orders spread swiftly through the Norman lines. Feign retreat, draw them out, then turn and destroy them. A more coordinated, larger-scale retreat commenced. Norman horsemen galloped away, drawing English eyes. King Harold and his Huscarls knew the danger. They desperately tried to maintain the shield wall's integrity. Yet, the sight of fleeing Normans, coupled with hours of stalemate, proved an irresistible temptation for many. Larger sections of the English fyrd broke ranks, abandoning the safety of the shield wall for pursuit. They surged into the open, their disciplined formation dissolving into a chaotic, vulnerable chase. The trap was sprung. Norman cavalry wheeled in unison, encircling the exposed, disorganized English forces. Swords, lances, and axes rained down. The English, caught in the open, had no defense against the mounted charge. The consequences were catastrophic. English dead lay strewn across the field, their discipline sacrificed for a fleeting hope. William's calculated gamble had paid off. The feigned retreat was a devastatingly effective psychological weapon. Each successful feigned retreat carved a deadly hole into the once impenetrable English shield wall. Commanders struggled, desperate to plug the growing gaps, to restore the cohesion that was rapidly unraveling. Again and again, the Normans repeated the deadly ruse. Each time, more English discipline fractured irrevocably. The psychological toll was immense. Confusion and despair began to replace the initial resolve of the English. With gaps appearing, Norman infantry finally found purchase, bypassing the shield wall's strength, attacking vulnerable flanks. The battle dissolved into desperate close-quarters combat. The English advantage of formation was utterly lost. King Harold, surrounded by his loyal Huscarls, fought with the ferocity of a trapped lion. The dragon standard of Wessex, though battered, remained flying, a beacon for the dwindling English resistance. William understood the target. Shatter the leadership, and the remaining English resistance would collapse entirely. The Norman onslaught converged on Harold's position, a desperate, bloody maelstrom engulfing the king and his guard. One by one, Harold's loyal Huscarls fell, sacrificing themselves to protect their king's final desperate stand. Then, a devastating blow. An arrow, piercing the chaos, found its mark, striking Harold down. The King of England, mortally wounded, fell amidst his loyal housecarls, a tragic end to his reign. Norman knights, recognizing the fallen king, brutally ensured his death, leaving no doubt of his demise. With Harold fallen, the last vestige of English organized resistance shattered. The battle was irrevocably lost. A thunderous roar erupted from the Norman lines. Victory was theirs, hard won, and brutally achieved. The rout was absolute. English survivors fled, relentlessly pursued by the victorious Norman cavalry, slaughter continuing. The slopes of Senlac Hill became a gruesome testament to the price of broken discipline and fatal pursuit. William surveyed the carnage, the costly victory now secured. England lay open before his conquering gaze. The feigned retreat, a controversial yet brilliant tactic, truly broke the English, turning the tide of Hastings. English discipline, their greatest strength, ultimately became their fatal flaw, unable to resist the lure of pursuit. Harold Godwinson's final desperate stand marked the tragic end of Anglo-Saxon rule in England. The Battle of Hastings, a crucible of strategy and discipline, forever changed the course of English history. The king was dead. Harold's fall sent a seismic shockwave through the valiant Saxon ranks. With their leader gone, the mighty shield wall, symbol of defiance, finally shattered beyond repair. Panic gripped the Saxons. Disbelief turned to terror as resistance evaporated, sealing England's fate. Hastings was over. The field of slaughter marked the decisive end of Anglo-Saxon dominion. In the immediate aftermath, Anglo-Saxon power crumbled. Leaders, desperate and disorganized, faced an impossible future. No clear successor emerged. The spiritual and political heart of the kingdom lay fractured. Across the land, localized resistance flared, but without central command, it was easily extinguished. The dream of an independent, united Anglo-Saxon England was cruelly and irrevocably extinguished on Senlac Hill. William, now undisputed master of the battlefield, consolidated his forces, his gaze fixed on London. The ruthless march north began. William's strategy was not just conquest, but absolute subjugation. Through fire and sword, the Normans advanced, spreading fear. Resistance was met with merciless, brutal efficiency. Castles rose, stark symbols of dominance. William was stamping his authority on every conquered shire. Any lingering resistance, however brave, was systematically crushed, ensuring total Norman control. The Saxon aristocracy faced a stark choice: flee into exile or submit to the foreign conqueror. Lands were seized, redistributed. The ancient Saxon order was dismantled, replaced by a new feudal system. Every institution, from governance to land ownership, was systematically restructured under Norman decree. The social fabric of England was violently torn. A new foreign elite now ruled over the native populace. Politically, England was remade. From an independent kingdom, it became part of a larger Norman empire. Culturally, a profound shift began. Anglo-Saxon language and customs started their slow decline, giving way. The unique Anglo-Saxon identity, forged over centuries, now faced an existential threat under foreign dominion. Hastings was more than a battle. It was the crucible that forged a new nation, an invasion, not just a victory. This marked the violent end of one era and the forceful, often brutal beginning of another. England would never be the same. The Norman Conquest, born from bloodshed at Hastings, irrevocably altered England's destiny, shaping its future forever. The dust settled on Senlac Hill, but the true impact of Hastings was only just beginning to unfold. Beyond the battlefield, a new era dawned. England was about to be reshaped, irrevocably and profoundly. Conquerors established their rule, placing a Norman elite atop a subjugated Anglo-Saxon society. A new hierarchy emerged. Land, the bedrock of power, shifted dramatically. Anglo-Saxon estates were systematically seized and redistributed. The Norman Conquest cemented feudalism, a rigid social contract tying every Englishman to a lord, ultimately the king. Anglo-Saxon nobility, once powerful, was largely disinherited. Their influence waned, forever altering England's ancient leadership. Norman French became the language of power, administration, and the courts. English was relegated to common folk. For centuries, two languages coexisted, separated by class. Yet, their eventual fusion would birth a new tongue. Gradually, the languages intertwined, forming Middle English. A linguistic crucible forever changed the island's voice. Norman legal principles, systematic and centralized, began replacing ancient Anglo-Saxon customs and fragmented laws. A more unified legal system emerged, laying foundations for English common law. Justice now wore a Norman face. The Domesday Book, William's Grand Survey, became an unprecedented tool for taxation and judicial control. William the Conqueror forged a powerful, centralized monarchy. England would no longer be a fragmented kingdom. The Norman kings wielded unprecedented authority, establishing a strong monarchy that defined centuries of rule. New institutions and administrative structures solidified royal power. England's governance was fundamentally transformed. William, the architect of this new order, systematically dismantled the old and built a formidable new nation. Anglo-Saxon resilience met Norman innovation. Two distinct cultures began an intricate, profound, and undeniable fusion. Architecture, art, and customs blended. Norman grandeur infused England with new styles and lasting cultural richness. Through generations, intermarriage and shared lives blurred the lines. A new Anglo-Norman identity slowly solidified. England, once isolated, was now inextricably linked to continental European politics, shifting its geopolitical destiny. New alliances and conflicts emerged, forever drawing England into the intricate tapestry of European power struggles. The legacy of Hastings echoed through centuries, shaping laws, language, and the very fabric of England. From 1066, Britain's identity was forged. Hastings shaped its global role, a profound legacy still resonating today. The fields of Hastings, now tranquil, conceal the echoes of a cataclysmic clash that forever reshaped a nation. More than a battle, Hastings was the crucible where modern England's identity, language, and governance were forged. This was no mere skirmish. Hastings was a brutal, grinding ordeal, a testament to the raw savagery of medieval warfare. Beneath the chaos lay a tapestry of strategic brilliance and cunning, far exceeding any simplistic battlefield narrative. Forget the myths. Hastings was a complex dance of deadly gambits, unexpected turns, and unwavering desperate resolve. From Harold's shield wall to William's relentless advance, immense courage pulsed through every warrior present. Thousands made the ultimate sacrifice that fateful day, their blood seeding the future of an entire kingdom. William's calculated risks and adaptability turned the tide, showcasing a strategic acumen that secured his destiny. Harold's masterful defensive stand against a superior foe demonstrated his tactical genius and unyielding leadership. If you're captivated by these deep dives into history's turning points, hit that subscribe button now. And if this cinematic journey through Hastings resonated with you, show your support by giving this video a like. We want to hear your insights. Share your perspectives and questions about Hastings in the comments below. Join our community for deeper explorations, behind-the-scenes content, and exclusive access to historical analyses. Together, let's continue to uncover the truth and drama behind history's most epic, pivotal conflicts.